How's things in Toronto and Calgary? Is it kind
Pretty
of weird or
bad.
what?
Pretty bad.
In Toronto, cases are surging right now. We were doing okay, and then people really relaxed on the social distancing measures. So cases are surging. We may go back into phase 2 of lockdown.
Right.
But right now, like, things are open. You just like have to be really careful and be mindful with the masks and social distancing and all of that. But obviously people are not mindful. So
Right.
we'll see.
Yeah. I hear you. It's crazy times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's Calgary like?
Same. I mean, we were so I'm supposed to be in Toronto.
Right.
But just because the situation is so up and down because of lockdowns and quarantines, we have a high rise in Toronto. So I was like, maybe 4 of us don't want to be stuck in a high rise apartment in downtown Toronto during COVID. So I was like, I'll stay here. Yep. My parents are here, and some people from our collective are here. So we just keep flying back and forth between Toronto and Calgary.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the word collective, because I wanted to ask you about this collective that you have. Tell me about it.
Gang of people fucking around. I'm joking.
So we're called Bot Nation. That's our collective. And obviously it's us, Cartel Madras. And it also includes Jay Sterling, who is a rapper and an artist. He's currently touring Canada with his art exhibit that we've sort of been a part of in terms of like making it happen. Right. And we've also done a bunch of shows with him. We've done music with him before. Other members of our collective include Young Kamaji, who usually tours with us. He's our DJ. He's also a visual artist, and he does a lot of like mixed media art. And our other like core member is Jade. He's a producer and a photographer, and he was the one that made our most recent single called Working.
Right, which is why we're here ostensibly to discuss.
Working. Yeah, so he made that song, and he's in Toronto as well. Like we all met in Calgary, but he's in Toronto. He's from UK. Yep. And so UK and like Working really has that UK garage sound, and that's what that song is really all about. It's about like garage, house, that UK sound. Yeah. And that is where that song is rooted in. And we work a lot with our collective in making music, making art, putting other musicians on the map and sort of working with them, doing artist development, those things.
Yeah. We're kind of in a interesting moment of expansion. So we have our core members, but there's a lot of artists we kind of work with and rub shoulders with and collaborate with. So Dot Nation is kind of moving into like a larger collective, a bit of a production company, a media house. It's going in different directions. So it's kind of exciting, all of that happening during COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling that the visual aspect is almost as important as the music with you guys, just from watching the videos and stuff. And like, I didn't know what I was going to expect when I saw you. Thought maybe you might be in some kind of glam outfit or something like punk P-funk or something. So it's
I wish.
Yeah.
I'm at home, so
I just drove into Calgary. I was out of town for a few days, so I just literally drove in 5 minutes ago, which is why I look like this. Usually we are in glam.
Oh, cool.
This is really not representative of our fashion. I'm in a white t-shirt right now. It's really not been the fashion vibe this week.
Right, I hear you.
Either of us.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I look like the production assistant for Michael Moore. So.
Not to badmouth the production assistant. We need them all.
We need them all.
So let's talk about the video a little bit. So you guys kind of co-made it with somebody by the name of Gabriella Ossio Vandris. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And she's Toronto based. So we came up with, as in Cartel Madras, Thought Nation, we came up with the treatment for the video, and we really wanted to do this sort of visual homage to 90s dance videos, Euro dance, and really like pay those visual cues in tribute to like queer music, house music, voguing, all of those things. And so we made the treatment for it, and we were looking very closely at who we wanted to work with to sort of manifest the visuals for the video.
Right.
And we were really lucky in terms of how we came across Gabriella, because a month or two before we were making the treatment for Working, we were working with a good friend of ours who is an author, artist, professor. Her name is Vivek Shraya, and she is always working on something. And she's been in one of our music videos before, and we've been in touch with her for a while, ever since we opened for her band called Too Attached in Calgary. And we've just been in touch with her. And so she recently came out with this book called The Subtweet, which is a really good book. And it has a lot to do with like the Canadian music scene, a lot to do with being a POC in the Canadian music scene, being a woman of color in the Canadian music scene. And so she has a song that she made, which is sort of a tribute to the novel itself.
It's like a song within the book.
Yeah, it's a companion piece to the book. And the whole point of the book is that like one artist does a cover of this song, which another artist has done.
Gotcha.
And so there's 2 female leads to this book. And we were given the opportunity by Vivek to play these 2 female leads in the music video companion to the novel.
Yeah.
And Gabriella, and it's funny because the 2 female and protagonists in the book are, it worked out because for some reason we kind of look like them. It worked out. And we were like, okay, great, we'll do this. And we were really pleased to be offered this because
pretty cool.
she's such a fabulous writer, and she really brings her characters so much nuance and like so many layers. And we were like, oh, it'd be such a pleasure to play your characters in a music video. Right. And so she came to us and was like, hey, do you guys want to play these characters? Obviously, Eboshi in Toronto, you would play one of the characters, and Contra in Calgary, you'd play a different character. And the person who she had in charge of sort of doing the cinematography, directing, bringing it all together, and taking lead on editing and being a part of that team was Gabriella, who ended up being the cinematographer for Working and co-directing that with us. Right. That's how we met her. And it was great because Calgary has a lot of talent, but at the end of the day, it's not just Calgary, like Canada has a lot of talent, but it's a very small creative community. Ultimately, you end up meeting each other, knowing someone who knows someone. Yep. So it made sense that we met one of the very creative eyes that are based in Toronto, which is Gabriella, and the people that are part of her circle, which included the editor, Oliver, her partner, who also was a part of the cinematography and visual direction of Working. And so it worked out. And after we shot the Subtweet music video with Gabriella, we were like, let's do you want to work on? We showed her the treatment.
On Working.
Gotcha.
And we were like, how do you feel?
I love it because I'm an old dude. So when I think of Canadian music, I'm thinking of Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and Leonard Cohen, which is great. What kind of scene, especially the hip hop scene, what's going on there? Is it strong?
The hip hop scene in Canada is interesting because it's having a moment, in the past 4 years. It's definitely, as you know, Drake has sort of put a lot of kind of cultural capital into Toronto, right? And Toronto's really kind of carrying Canadian hip hop on its back. At least that's kind of I think like the American perspective on Canadian hip hop is looking to Toronto as like this cultural center for hip hop.
Yep.
But, you know, we've sort of kind of come onto the scene in the past 2 years, right? And I would say before that, all the things informing us culturally, hip hop wise, was American. So when we kind of came into the Canadian scene, there was this moment where we were like, okay, are we trying to make it in this country, or are we trying to make it internationally? Like, what's the strategy here, right? And oddly enough, it was this, like, we came onto the scene in this moment where I think a lot of Canadian youth were like, okay, I think there is a bit of a way for us to get into the market, because there's all these streaming platforms now, which allows you to kind of leapfrog over, maybe you need to go and make it in the American underground to be seen, right? Like, apps like Instagram and Spotify and SoundCloud really change everything. You can be discovered. You can be making trap music in your basement, and someone from Atlanta could hear your beat.
Which is not to say at all that we are internet musicians, nor are we viral artists. Unfortunately, we have not really like broken into the scene via the internet. That's very much not been the case for us. We've been performance artists predominantly because we've been touring. Oh, she's gone.
We lost her. I'm sure she'll be back. We
lost her. Hopefully she'll come back. But we have really had this distinct privilege, which is not often afforded to Canadian artists, which is that we've been able to perform since our inception.
Gotcha.
We've been able to take Cartel Madras on the road throughout Canada ever since our first show, before our first record. And that's sort of not just a Canadian anomaly, but that's anomalous in general, because usually what happens is artists will really work on their first record, they'll make it happen, they'll kind of be in their bedroom or something making it happen, and then after that they'll hopefully be able to take it on the road with them. For us, we had our first show January 2018 with 2 or 3 songs on SoundCloud, recorded via like a telemarketing headset. And we knew right away, we were like, first of all, we don't have the equipment, but also like we want to just take this to stage. We want to take this on stage and have people like see and listen to it that way. And that proved to be how we gained our footing, gained traction, recognized and developed our own artistry, and ultimately how we got signed. Because without are you back in?
She's back. Looking good. Thank you, Contra.
Without our ability to have toured for not even the first, like just immediately upon doing our first show, we wouldn't have really been able to get to where we are now. And that's a huge thing that is important to us, because even though we're young artists, we're new artists, we're really tapped into like internet culture, we're really on the internet. We are not viral musicians, nor are we like TikTok artists. Like,
I don't even know what that is.
Me neither. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out. The app keeps undownloading on my phone, and then I feel weird because I'm like, should I do this again? I don't know. I don't really want to.
Well, so that's gotten you where you are now, and Working is like the first track that you've released in a while since your EP last year. So where are you now? What's the plan?
The plan now is to hibernate until we can perform live again.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, the plan is like, it's interesting. We this year was supposed to be the big Cartel tour year, you know, and like we've been touring for the past 2 years, but this year we were going to go on tour with Clipping. We were going to go to Europe. We were going to go to India. It was, you know, mapped out to be like that international launch pad year for us. But seeing as we are in the midst of a pandemic, it's I think we've kind of doubled down on making more music that is, I think, you know, when we made Age of the Gunda, it was very thematically focused, you know, like it had, there was one story we were kind of trying to tell amongst several, but there was this overarching narrative. And I think, you know, being on tour and then suddenly having to stop and being in different parts of the country and being in the midst of a pandemic, while there's so much kind of political upheaval going on, our music has sort of reflected that in how different each song is that we're working on right now. You know,
Gotcha.
From Working to this single that we just dropped with an artist we collaborated with, to like the other 3 that we're kind of like figuring out how to release now. It's all very it's very different sonically and thematically, and I think that's very representative of how we feel, right? There really is no way to have a feeling and then hold on to it for 6 months like the way life used to be. You know what I mean? Yeah.
All right. So what's next? You got another track ready to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 big ones.
We have 2 very different ones from what we've just put out.
Right.
One is going to be very much the successor to Gunda Gold in terms of the visuals and the vibe. And one is going to be just this like dotty party classic raunchy hip hop track that is going to be just like fun. And because like with the most recent one we put out, which is called Stay Up All Night with GWS, that's very different, a huge departure from what we usually do. It's got some singing from us, which we don't really do that. We don't really
apparently you do.
But in this song we do, and it's really interesting because it's like an R&B trap song. So it's like moody, it's got different languages in it. It's a collaboration. It's totally different, and it was filmed in 3 different cities. So it's a very unique track for us, which we're really jazzed about. And then Working, obviously, was kind of what the type of music we always want to make. We want to make just this really nice house song that's like stunty and very queer and very like reflective of the music that we listen to and the cultures that we are participating in. And that's why like hip house is where we are the most comfortable. And it's interesting that like we've been making a lot of it, we just haven't been releasing a lot of it.
Gotcha.
Like Age of the Gunda has no house in it. It has like this trap punk fusion that we really do, that we love as well. But Age of the Gunda is very much a representation of like how we behave as artists, which is that like we perform live and we want our music to be able to translate into a live show. And seeing as that is not the reality that we exist in as artists right now, because there's no way we're going to be able to do a live show right now where we're in front of 1,000 people and we're passing around a joint and a bottle of gin to whoever we want. There's not really going to be much like spit swapping in the next year.
I hear you.
So the way we used to exist as rappers isn't
it's changed. But it gives a sort of, you know, it opens a door for even more experimentation, because, you know, maybe we can go and make those songs that we might never perform. It's just a song that comes out of this era in our lives, right?
Gotcha.
It sounds very different in it, and it's like kind of composed and produced very specifically, and it's meant for you to listen to at home.
Sounds cool. Now, believe it or not, I have a punk band coming up here in about 5 minutes to set up and play in my back room, so I better get rolling.
Amazing.
This is what we do on a Friday afternoon in Auckland. So it's been fantastic talking to you guys. Hopefully, I'll get to see you down here in Auckland sometime in full regalia.
That would be
amazing. I want to see you glammed up.
We hope so.
It's going to look and sound awesome. In the meantime, we'll wait for the next single, and we'll keep on pumping away on Working. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
for
much,
having
Marty.
us.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Out.
Bye.